you doing, Ryan?
I'm okay. We're actually in the middle of a tropical storm just now, so
Oh shit! Hence the
I
shirt.
think it's probably yeah. I brought about the tropical storm by pulling this bad boy out of the cupboard. So yeah, I think it's Eta. Eta's hit ground like at South Florida and stuff. So we're getting like the fart end of it, like up here.
Oh shit! Right.
Um, So the weather is very interesting. And now that I've got a dog, obviously taking him out into the rain, he hates it, absolutely hates it. So we were out there for half an hour trying to just get him to do toilet. And we're now back inside. He's a little bit more miserable because he's wet and stuff, but
Is it
I'm
from
sure
like
he'll
a?
survive.
Is it from like a pound or
We got him from a rescue. Yeah, he's a
rescue?
rescue
Yeah,
dog. So yeah,
amazing, man. He's gonna be. He's
he's a
gonna be
good
in your next
he's a good
use.
boy.
Yeah,
Yeah, he's a good boy.
I expect him in your
But
next short film.
oh, we'll see. We'll see. Yeah, the last dog we had in the short film was back in 2019, but that dog couldn't really walk, so it
Oh
was
right,
perfectly
yeah.
fine to have him kind of in a stationary position.
As
This
as a
dog,
prop, yeah.
yeah, yeah, but he was, yeah, you could control him better. This one, I don't know about.
Well, thank you for popping on the Hellbound interviews, Ryan.
Yeah,
I don't know why, but I keep making this mistake of calling you Robert. I think I sent it on an email once. So if I call you Robert by accident, please correct me. I don't mind being corrected. I'm
that's
going to
okay.
actually write that down.
Yeah,
But yeah, I really wanted to speak to you and some of the other filmmakers. Some of the filmmakers that weren't selected for the live event.
hmm
But your film in particular, as you probably know, that I absolutely loved it, Flash. Um,
yeah,
it's because the atmosphere and what you managed to achieve, it was the one out of all of them. I thought there were some brilliant films, and you've seen some of them,
yeah.
and yours is the one that atmosphere really kind of hit me. I'm like, wow, this is. I felt I was there. I felt I was in those shadows,
Good.
trying to look for things, you know. So
Yeah, thank you.
I think you did a sterling job, and thanks for all your support for the festival as well. It's really been appreciated.
Yeah, no, I think it's been reciprocal because of the Isolation Film Festival as well, and this year has been incredibly tough just overall. So I kind of feel like yeah, a little bit of that just kind of goes a long way.
Absolutely.
Um, so
So yeah, it's been a really interesting journey. I wanted to do this for forever, really, to support
yeah,
horror filmmakers and not to support my own filmmaking, but to support others. And what we received, and because we got, I had an inkling of what I wanted to do when I first started the festival in March, the other festival in March,
yeah,
and I wanted to do something just for horror, and I thought this was a great avenue to do it. The only thing that's always tricky is the amount of admin and the amount of work that goes into it is crazy.
yeah,
But when we started receiving films like Hollywood Dead, which was our very first submission, it really gave me like every time we received something really positive, a film or a message on Instagram, it really kind of emphasized that we were doing the right thing. Um,
yeah.
but yeah, I wanted to talk about Flash and how that kind of came to be when you first dreamt it up. Was it something you had in the pipeline for a while? Because was it your wife came up with the initial concept? Is that right?
Yeah, so I finished Gargantua last year, so it was released in September. So that's still doing its like festival thing. And I was working on a few music videos. Pretty much I tried to pack in as much stuff as I could just before leaving to go to the States because I knew kind of well past like into September and certainly by the time we'd gotten married in October, by December it was like, okay, we were pretty much moving to the States. So I made a bunch of music video stuff. I was working with some people I'd worked with before, just purely because it's easier that way than working with new folk, where you kind of have to generate a kind of foundation and a basis, kind of totally from scratch and stuff. With people you worked with before, you can kind of just like snap to it and everything kind of flows and everything works. But anyway, I was working with an actress on a music video for the Verona Snow, and I mentioned to her that just in passing, me and my wife watch films all the time. That's the one thing that me and her do consistently on a nightly basis is usually watch like 1 or 2 films. And one of her favorite types of films is like a hider in the house story. So I think one of the last ones we watched, which was a hider in the house thing, was oh god, what's his name again? Gary Busey's in it, and he's hiding, and I think it's literally called Hider in the House. And I'm going to type it into Google.
So Gary Busey's the creepy guy.
He's hiding. Yeah, it's Gary Busey. He's hiding in the attic. And when the people go out to work and go to school and stuff like that, he starts like playing husband, like to himself and stuff. Yeah, so there's some really weird kind of Gary Buseyisms in it,
right?
Which are kind of like very menacing. But I remember seeing at the time, it's like young Gary Busey though, because it's from it's from '89, so it's kind of like Point Break Gary Busey.
That's prime.
So it's like prime Busey action, basically. So he's there, he's doing all of his Busey stuff. And I remember kind of saying in the review I said, well, look, Gary Busey back then, he might not be so scary in the attic. Gary Busey now would be fucking terrifying.
Well, as soon as you mentioned this film, I thought if it's the Gary Busey now, it would be a trip. It'd be a trip. I feel so sorry for it. Wasn't it an operation or something that's caused him to be the way he is? The way he's in his current state of mind? Because he's...
Potentially. I wouldn't obviously like to make comment on what has happened to Gary Busey, but who knows? Maybe there's some surgery involved there.
Yeah.
Who knows?
He was phenomenal. That period of 80s and 90s, and for me, one of my favorite characters is in Predator 2. I loved his kind of staunch, kind of political, military type character he had, and he had some great one-liners. And that sounds. Please send me the link to that film because that sounds really interesting.
Yeah, it was on streaming when we saw it. We saw it in the UK, so maybe it's still up. What you kind of found, or at least we found when we were trying to watch a bunch of stuff during Halloween, is that all the Halloween films tend to disappear, or the ones you want to watch anyway, tend to disappear around that time, so they force you to pay for them. But yeah, getting back on to the point of Flash. So we watch films like all the time, and one of those things that my wife loves is that she loves like a hider in the house thing, and certainly The Boy, oh, spoiler alert, The Boy is kind of like that as well, even though it's terrible. But yeah, that's the sort of thing that she really, really enjoys. But she had an idea that she'd kind of had in her head for a little while, and it was revolving around using a disposable camera. So the original concept from when we'd written it, where it was going to begin at a wedding. And sometimes at these weddings, and certainly wedding receptions, they just hand out like a bunch of cameras so people kind of take the pictures for them, and then they just take them all back at the end of the night and they develop them, and then that's effectively the portfolio of the entire night, seen from all these different perspectives and stuff. And she always found that quite interesting. So it was a way, because certainly disposable cameras, I guess there's a novelty value to them now. Certainly now everybody has a camera on their phone. Digital cameras are obviously the rage, and you don't really have the patience nor the time to say, take a disposable camera, continue to shoot on film. You know, there's more of it's an old technology. Now, I would say it's a better technology because of the way things look, and that's certainly from my kind of standpoint. But there's a convenience to present technology. So it was about trying to get a camera in the hands of the character to then bring it to effectively like what you saw in the film. The original concept for the film begins at a wedding. She has this camera, ends up in her possession. She kind of forgets about it because that's kind of just what it is. And she finds herself lost in, say, like a wood, and it gets super dark. Her phone's out of battery. Basically, we were setting up all these things, all these little kind of horror tropes and stuff to maintain the illusion that like her only thing that was going to help her in the situation was going to be this little camera. And originally it was going to be a monster. It was going to be a creature of some kind. But it was always predicated upon building a sense of tension and building a sense of atmosphere. So certainly what I'd written originally was that it was set in this wood, and we would be basically giving people all of these like falsities and all these sounds and all these things, because effectively it'd be totally in the dark. And I guess by the end of 2019, when I started writing it and I'd spoken to an actress about it, a girl called Eileen McLaughlin, who had worked with quite a few bits, and she was like quite interested in the idea. I just couldn't pin it down. Like I just couldn't get the idea to work, because I felt like there was far too many like pitfalls within the narrative, too many plot holes and things, you know, because you're trying to lean a character to go a certain direction, and you're trying to make all the factors that surround the situation they found themselves in to try and fit, and it just didn't really work. I was like, character could be a photographer, she likes using cameras and things, but then I was kind of like, it was a little bit trite, you know, you're kind of forcing it into the situation. I was like, well, maybe let's just leave it for just now. So we did. So really, it wasn't until you announced the festival kind of after the Isolation Film Festival that I started looking at the film again. And obviously looking at the situation that we're in right now, I was very constrained in like what I could achieve. Yeah. And certainly without having any money, really having very limited resources, I was not about ready to start reaching out to actors in the local area and stuff like that to kind of bring that in, because certainly things work a little bit differently over here than they do back home. So really it was a case of, I looked at what I had, and I had a house, I had my wife who'd acted in a couple of things already, and basically I wrote the story around those two things. So when we talk about, say, the atmosphere and the tension things, I basically just extended that out to the entirety of the film. So really, if the atmosphere and the tension, and certainly because there's a very deliberate way in which the film is shot, the film was like storyboarded super heavily. I storyboarded it like twice before we went to shoot it. I knew that every single shot had to drive the primary feelings and the atmosphere forward. So all of the shots that were there, we only shot what we needed. So all those tracking shots, all of those deliberate camera moves, they were all pre-planned, and we shot the thing over 6 days. I did a small rewrite, pardon me, but I did a small rewrite in the middle of the film. So that section which you see in the film with the box, with the little dead bird that was meant to be in there,
yeah,
that kind of just happened because we had that little baby bird just like fall in our garden one day. And I was like, okay, I was shooting the scene in the bedroom, and then I went into our garden to do the tracking shot from the window that looked down the other side of the house. And all the way through that, all I could hear was like this bird like squawking. And I looked over, and it's like this tiny little thing like stuck on one of the logs that's on the floor. And in a situation like that, there's very little you can kind of do for the bird. You kind of just have to leave it, and you just kind of, you leave it alone, and it'll kind of sort itself out. You let nature take its course, whatever.
Absolutely.
You know, but yeah, I ended up taking a couple of shots of it purely because I was like, well, I don't know, there's a bird right there. I'll take some shots of it from a distance. And it just kind of, that little thing kind of germinated from there. And I think the next kind of 3 days, the film kind of expanded a little bit more. And I think the final scene was the last thing that we shot. And I think that was a good, every single day ended up being like one scene was shot, and it was a good like 6 hours every day to just do one scene, you know?
Was there any kind of insert shots or anything that you did, not for rewriting purposes, but you thought, right, I need to do that again? Or did you capture everything pretty much straight away?
To be fair, most of it was caught perfectly fine. One of the shots I had the biggest issue with was the introduction of the camera. So there's the shot that pans from the screen door all the way across to the door handle. That's all one shot, and then you see the door handle going, and then it opens. The shot that follows that after the main title, Laura comes across to the blinds and she's talking just across there. And then she looks over and sees the camera, and then she walks around. Well, obviously there I tilt it down and then I track forward. I think that took maybe 30 something takes just to do that. Certainly because I'm dealing with a camera, it has no autofocus capabilities whatsoever. I was shooting on like a 50mm, which on my camera is the equivalent to an 85mm.
Yeah.
And it's just an absolute nightmare to keep in focus. And really, I picked what was effectively like the best shot of the bunch with the best performance and things. So certainly,
it was on
there was inserts.
Was it a 60D or 70D or something you used? Is that right?
It's a 60D. Yeah, that camera is at least almost 10 years old now.
I've got to say, your use of the camera moves, even from what I saw of obviously Squidgely, which you submitted for the Isolation Film Festival, yeah. I thought this was, in terms of storytelling, obviously there's a lot more time, and I was a little bit flexible past the 10-minute mark, and I was more than happy to do that for a few films, and it really kind of showed. I don't know if it's a maturity of filmmaking between those two films, but it's a huge step up in, I'd say, storytelling, because you obviously have more time, so a lot of people would struggle with that, but I think you achieved something really, really nice. And the insert shots, I wanted to highlight some of them, like the close-ups of Jess, the character, when she takes the flash and she stumbles on the floor. I thought that was beautifully edited. I didn't see the edit. You know how you can watch a film and you see the edits where it's like over-the-shoulder shots and you see two characters and it cuts too sharply and you know it's like a very poor edit, or they're pushing time because it's television. But with that, I thought it was just really, you just knew something really great was happening when you watched the film. That's why I think so many people have responded well to it. And I've told a few people that I thought it was a Canon camera you used, and I told them it was either 60 or 70D. And they were surprised, and they're surprised because of what you got out of it. And I mean, in a really positive way, you really kind of milk that for all it's worth, you know. And I think the slider stuff works extremely well. And my favorite shot in the whole film is the very last shot. It's kind of a reveal. I won't say what it is for people who haven't seen it. The very last shot with the title at the end, I thought it was absolutely brilliant. And it's great to kind of, for some people that might not necessarily know what's going on, but my favorite shot is when it's pulling back from the door. I think she leaves to go to work, and then you start hearing the sound of footsteps. Absolutely love that, Ryan. I thought that was great.
Good.
And the lighting, you saw what the judges thought, and I spoke to Dave Kendall extensively. That segment we pre-recorded of him talking about the films and which one he really liked, and he found it a real struggle between Nom and your film to pick his favorite. So I thought it was beautifully crafted. I think your wife did an absolutely sterling job. Is this like the second or third time you worked with her?
That's maybe closer to the fourth. We've made she has a tiny role in Gargantua. She's the female presence in that film, which is effectively about like a kind of abusive relationship. So her character kind of wanders in and out of the house when she thinks the partner's not there to like try and grab her things to try and leave. So she's not really seen in that. She has no speaking roles in that. So her kind of presence is more as a shadow in that film. But no, she was in Buttering, that tiny little film I made when I first arrived here. She's obviously in Squiggly, where she's got a couple of speaking lines. She's also in a music video that I did for a band back home that's not getting released till December. She's all the way through that one. And then obviously Flash is probably the biggest thing we've done together. So certainly those really kind of short things, which I felt like they were kind of more for fun. Flash was more to the sort of extent that I would take say my proper short film work, I guess. The idea was strong enough that I felt like it needed that time and that effort to kind of put into it.
Absolutely. What's that? As your working relationship, is that really quite strong now? Is it easier having a partner, a wife that now acts? Because I would absolutely use this as a calling card for her possibly doing stuff in the future as well. And was it an easy process between the two of you? Yeah,
I think so. I think we're best friends. and we're incredibly honest with each other. I think certainly if you compare working relationships between, say, the couples of old, married couples, like one of my favorite kind of relationships you see on screen or working partner relationships is Gina Rowlands and John Cassavetes,
Yeah.
And that I could probably see as being quite, I don't know, I don't want to say difficult, but I guess they understood each other to such an extent that they created very beautiful work,
Yeah.
But certainly I would not put myself in comparison to say that sort of relationship. To me, Laura wanted to make sure and help me make the things that I was doing this year. She has a bit of an acting background, more kind of musical background, because she was more into like musical theater and things when she was younger. And just obviously as time went on, that kind of tailed off and the opportunities were not presented to her. So she'd had some experience working in like films and commercials and stuff like that from when she was younger. So yeah, we weren't, to say that I would direct her. If you're a classically trained actress, I kind of feel like there's a way that you can direct them and tell them to do certain things because they're used to the process. And the process and the technical aspects of being an actor on a set and how to elicit like the performances that you're being asked to elicit, I kind of feel like there's a certain language and there's an understanding that you're able to kind of put out there as a director in order to get that back. With Laura, it's slightly different because we're already in a partnership. We're already in a relationship. We're best friends. So really it was more a case of like trying to make this whole process as fun and as entertaining as possible. Because at the end of the day, making films for me can be a frustrating and enraging experience sometimes. And certainly when I'm fucking shots up, then I'm down to like take 22, the same thing, and I'm asking Laura to do the same thing like 22 times. My mind's kind of more down to the fact of just like, yeah, I'm really sorry. I'm going to have to ask you again because I fucked up again. So, I felt like I was wasting her time. So really, because of our love of just film in general, Laura's just incredibly understanding, and plus obviously we're married, so she's always going to be understanding. So yeah, she is my primary support. She is my rock. So when it came to doing the filming and working together, it wasn't so much like work as it was we were just spending time together doing something fun.
That's great, man. That really kind of, it elevates your Halloween as well, doesn't it? And that kind of October period when you got something great that you've made together, and creating something, even if it's cooking or a film or doing something in a house, a project in the house or a room or something. It's really great kind of collaboration you can have. And through my fiance Vicky, we were supposed to get married in this weekend, but it's been delayed now another month. So through the last festival and this, she understands a greater understanding of what I do for work outside of work, and it's kind of made our relationship stronger as well. So we're going to look at little projects and things to do together. So it's a completely different work environment, isn't it? Creating something like that, like Flash. Like little things that I really appreciate is when Jess looks at the camera, turns it over, inspects it almost, like out of curiosity. I thought all of that was really, was something like that her idea, or was it something in direction, or was it in the boards? Because it's such a simple thing just to look at the camera and inspect it as though it's a curiosity,
Yeah, so going into that shot, certainly because the way I shoot things and the way I do it, we had the original script. If I could show the original script, it would be I'm a little bit embarrassed by the original script. certainly purely due to the fact that as someone who's written quite a few scripts over the years and made plenty of short films, this script ended up looking like it was just a list of shots. So from scene to scene, it was just like, okay, this shot does this, Jess does this, this shot does this, Jess does this. So there's no real sense of the atmosphere. There's no real sense of like where the story's going. It's just a case of like, well, look, the camera's going to go from this close up into a mid, and then it's going to pan down over here. So it's very much a kind of technical script. So we didn't bother using the script at one point. So after I'd storyboarded it, and we knew exactly what shots we were getting, I would basically take the original storyboards. The storyboards are online as well. I did like I'll be releasing like my own thoughts on the film, on top of obviously the testimonial. Obviously, I've had to do director's notes and stuff for the festival submissions. But also because I storyboard everything, and every single film I've ever done, every single music video I've ever done, I storyboard it, and I like to show storyboard to screen comparison stuff. So you see like, okay, so this shot here. So really the films and the videos have always been created on a drawing board first before we go into filming them. So I kind of feel like I constrain myself to only shoot what I think is going to work in my head, which obviously saves on time. But obviously there's not a sense of being incredibly flexible or kind of working out of the boundaries, which is maybe, I feel like, maybe a hindrance to what I do. But at the same time, it's kind of like, well, this is the story you're intending to tell. You're the director, you're making the decisions, just go and do it.
Yeah.
So really, when we were using the storyboards, I put like little notes like next to each shot. And I think this film's only made up of about, it's like 40 something shots or something like that. So all of my little directions and stuff were written next to the shots. So when you see that shot in particular, basically Jess sits down, she has the camera in her hand, the camera tracks in slowly, and there's a curiosity towards it. I think that's basically all the direction is that she's curious about what this is. And I kind of felt like going from like a shot by shot basis was going to make the whole process easier for all of us, because certainly some of the shots go on for a while. So really giving Laura a little less to do kind of stopped the process from becoming a little confusing. Certainly working on other sets, you've got like loads of actors, loads of different things all kind of happening together. The amount of time it takes, it's just about simplifying the whole process.
Absolutely. So. What I loved, you just reminded me of a particular scene when the character Jess is on a bicycle. Now it was a really, you could have easily shaped the film where the camera never leaves the grounds of the house. Because you've got some great external shots as well, like the little panning shot from the down the little side of the house, which I absolutely love, because it's all about where this person or where this thing is creeping about, where is it hiding in the light and shadow, which is fantastic. And having daylight in it as well is really kind of not brave, but it shows an understanding of what you're dealing with, because you could have easily shot all of this at night and been really obvious and deliberate with what you were doing. But I love the shot with Jess on the bike, because it reminded me very much so of like 70s horror, because there's a scene in when you go out of relative darkness, like in Rosemary's Baby, when she's outside of the flat, you feel safe. You feel safe with the characters. You feel safe with her. And when she's in the flat or in the hallway, you know she's kind of in a shit situation. And it's a very similar thing to that scene in The Exorcist, where the younger priest is thinking about his mother, and she's up standing at the entrance to a subway, and she's mouthing something to him. And there's something about the energy, maybe it was deliberate, I'm not sure, the camera movement alongside Jess on the bike, but it was like this, that's where she felt safest. I think that's a really good achievement, Ryan. I think it was really good to have that scene in it, not put it in, but have it in that, because it gives it this kind of, it elevated the production, I think, quite a lot to do that, because you could have easily stayed in the house.
Of course.
But on that bike scene, I thought that was really great. Added kind of 70s energy to it, because I just finished watching The Changeling and a few other horror films recently, because I'm a bit addicted to Shudder. and it had that really good quality to it, that 70s quality to it, that scene. And when she came back to it, it's like back to the dread, back to the darkness.
Yeah.
So yeah, more power to you for that. And I thought it was great. And how long did you spend on kind of post?
So just to kind of cover that as well. That was one of the inserts as well, the bike stuff.
Thought it was great.
So that was at least another day just doing that, just because he had like a GoPro light camera, but most of the time it was me on another bike with the camera attached to that bike and then kind of riding alongside her and stuff like that. But yeah, that was another insert. I kind of felt that was quite important for that moment, because that came about from the bird stuff, because that bird scene was just like totally new. All that stuff was totally new. So we needed to get her out of the house so all of this other shit could happen when she wasn't there.
Yeah.
And then obviously she'd be returning home. So I mean, just to cover that, obviously that film evolved as we were shooting it as well, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, in terms of post, so the main things about it, I mean, this obviously was a 15-minute film. Really, it was a case of, it was more an assembly. There wasn't a bunch of shots that needed to be kind of plopped in. It was only like 40-something shots or something like that. And a lot of the shots hang for quite a period of time. There's not a lot of really kind of sharp cutting. It's not very quick. It was all about kind of making it feel like quite slow and methodic. Had a couple of issues with post, I think, because certainly over here I've got my 60D that I got in the UK that shoots at 25 and 50, which is obviously PAL standard. Over here it's 30, 60, but both series' cameras, they have 24p as well. So because I'd ran into a few issues with Swiggly and I ran into a few issues with buttering when I came over here, the shutter rate is different on the cameras, so it's affected by, say, like practical lights and stuff. So like the lamp I've got here, it was creating a rolling shutter effect like over the footage. There's some rolling shutter in the film, which I just left because I honestly just didn't want to deal with it. There's a bit where she's waking up before just the final scene in the film. She wakes up, she switches on the bedside lamp. Now, I'm using my own LED lamps in that room to create the blue that's in that room just then. But then she switches on the bedside lamp and you can see a little bit of the rolling shutter that's kind of disguised a little bit by the fact that it's kind of flaring out a wee bit, but it's definitely still there. So some of the issues I had was I shot in 24p. At one point, I forgot to shoot in 24p. We ended up shooting in 25, and I started to realize that we had a couple of issues there. That also affected some of the audio timing as well. Yeah. So some of the audio was a bit faster than what she was doing in some of the scenes. So really, Flash ended up being rife with a few kind of technical issues. Luckily, none of that stuff can be seen. So that's
it's a great learning curve. Right? It's frustrating that it happens, and it was happening. A very small version of that kind of issue was happening to me when I was doing all the podcast interviews for the Isolation Film Festival, because I think that Zoom was recording at 25 frames, but I chose to record on my camera at 24 because I prefer the look of it. And then it was the sync issue, and it was drifting, and it was a complete nightmare. So I can tell, and from my own personal experience, I can totally sympathize with that. But I've got to say, one very positive thing to come out of the post was the music and the score. I thought the score was absolutely fantastic. Brilliant work. So can you tell me about that kind of working process? Was the film done effectively before you scored it?
So I approached Amu. So since I arrived in the States, I'd been getting inundated with messages and stuff like that. So by the time I was finishing up post, and by post, I mean the film was cut, the visual cut was done, that was all sealed up, and I was working on the sound. And the sound itself took at least a week and a half, just kind of working on sound. Sound is the most important thing in this. And when I was approached by Amu, he just was like, I make music. I want to be a part of some projects. Obviously, times right now, people just want to be involved in things. And he was like, well, there's no money and stuff involved. And I was like, yeah, no, I have money. I'm a cash poor. We have nothing. So really, I do have this one project that might be fitting to your style, because certainly I tend to lean more towards, I guess, like ambient music, you know. So I like say ambient or kind of minimalist stuff.
Nothing too intrusive, yeah.
Yeah, you know, we're not going for Hans Zimmer here. We're kind of keeping it all kind of incongruous to kind of like what's going on. So certainly I wanted something that was a bit electronic. I wanted something that it felt modern, but then it also didn't take that modern horror film trope of being a little bit too 80s. So when I spoke to him about it and I kind of told him about the sort of feelings and stuff I had for the film, I was like, here's the sound. I'm still working on the sound. Here's the final thing. Here's the cues. Let's see what you do. Here's where my influences lie. Let's just see what you come up with. And certainly a lot of it was drones. It was kind of very underlying kind of bassy stuff. But then also I'm quite a big fan of having like character themes and stuff. So Jess has her own little thing. The Stranger has its own thing. And then I just wanted this kind of bassy stuff to just permeate the rest of the film. So it would kind of come up and down in levels. So really, I gave him cues, and there's periods in the film where like relative silence is a very important thing. And there's certainly a couple of deliberate like jump scare bits as well that come from the sound as well. So obviously I wanted them to remain effective. But then when Amu sent me the final mix, it was exactly what I wanted it to be. And it complemented the film incredibly well.
Absolutely, I thought it was really fresh, and what you kind of briefed him on and what you discussed about your influences. Like I can see by your T-shirt, we both absolutely love Carpenter. And is that the live retrospective tour T-shirt? Is that one of those T-shirts?
No, this is actually the one I got. I got this for my birthday because the guy didn't make them. Hold on, let's see.
I love that. Love it.
Yeah.
Oh, look at that, the spaceship as well. Great.
Yeah. So the guy who printed these, the guy who made these, I think my wife Laura, she contacted him. The guy's like, yeah, no, I'm out. So she actually got him to make more.
Yeah. So
which was nice.
So yeah, I love those T-shirts, and we love.
Yeah.
I love his music, and I think my favorite is probably Prince of Darkness. I love that film more and more each time I see it. But having something that's more modern and slightly more mature, and it felt like had a lot of freshness to it.
Yeah.
And I messaged Amu about the thing. I think he's releasing it as an EP.
Yeah.
Or as an EP. Yeah. I thought that was a great idea, and I'm very supportive of filmmakers, and I know what goes into producing something like this. So I thought it was a really great score. I thought it worked brilliantly. I really did.
Yeah.
And you can see that from the compliments from the judges, like I don't know if he said this during the live event, but Dave Kendall said he loved the lighting in the bedroom especially, and that's gonna influence some of his current work. He said he's gonna work it into some of his stuff, just certain shots and certain aspects of it. I thought it was a really, really solid film, and like the stuff in the idea of someone going into their kitchen and the doors are open, something so simple like that, where the cupboard doors are open. I thought that was really great, and I absolutely loved it. And what you did with your house and outside the house as well, I thought it was really great. And you can see a lot of the strengths in your cinematography, in your photography on your Instagram as well, and the kind of lighting, the mood, and the stuff at night with the rain on windows and windscreens, that kind of thing. I absolutely dig that, and you got so much out of your gear. And this film shows you don't need a super expensive camera at all to achieve something really great. You just need story is paramount, as we all know, and Yeah, I'm so happy you submitted this and created this, Ryan. I thought it was brilliant, mate. Absolutely,
Yeah,
really
no,
enjoyed
thank
it.
you.
And just that the little, I don't want to spoil it. I'm going to put a little spoiler alert. I'll cut this out. But
Okay.
the little reveal of the loft, I loved that. I absolutely loved that. And one thing that a lot of other filmmakers would have done is had that creak open or close or something, and
Yeah,
that would have
well,
been really obvious, wouldn't it?
we thought about it. It's actually the creek, the thing opening in the photo. I just added that in post because I wasn't about ready to deal. The house I'm in, the house is in, I'm fine. I'm just not about ready to potentially open that to find out what's maybe up there or anything that's kind of happening with that. So I just tend to kind of leave shit alone that I don't need to touch here. So I was like, right, okay, so I'll do this in post. I just stuck it through post, and I just put this like black line that kind of thinned out, so it looked like it was open a bit. And obviously with the filter and stuff on the photos, it'd be like it was slightly open. So yeah, there was the potential of having that, but I would have felt a bit. It would have felt weird, I think, to have it kind of
you don't
open.
want to reveal too much. You really don't.
Because Dave Kendall said it. I think he said it best in his comments, was like there's a level, or it was Ramsey Campbell, I can't really remember, but there's a level of ambiguity. Yeah, it might actually have been Dave. There's a level of ambiguity and mystery about, not revealing too much. And I guess like because the film hinged so much on how little you saw,
Yeah.
It was probably better to maintain that. You don't really want to break that wall when you've built it so well, I guess.
Absolutely. What did you use for the flash itself? The very first time we see a silhouette in the mirror and she's playing with the camera, and the great reaction shot of Jess. What did you use for the flash itself?
Of the silhouette in the TV?
Yeah.
Oh, that's just a composite. I did.
Oh wow, that's great.
Basically, I shot the TV at a slightly different angle behind that, or certainly in front of where the TV is. There's a hallway that leads towards a bathroom, and there's a window. So we took all the stuff from the window, and I just stood in the doorway of the bathroom, and then it created this silhouette. And then I recorded that with the camera, and then I just cut it out, plopped it on as a flash, and then that was all it was.
Yeah, that's seamless. It's really seamless. Really well worked. And Ryan, what have you kind of got any other projects in mind for the near future?
So, I mean, I had one more little thing I was going to shoot with Laura. I think because I have been kind of so busy making things, I've kind of wanted to maybe focus on doing some more art stuff, because I've been doing illustration for quite a while. I was working on a comic. It's just something I was kind of hoping to kind of do a little bit more work on. But I guess, yeah, I keep on writing. I keep on making little stories and stuff that's maybe a little bit bigger, a little bit more ambitious. I had a feature film that I've been kind of rattling around in my head for a little while, which is kind of more a drama with horror elements, which is probably kind of more the stuff that I've been doing, as opposed to say something like Flash, which is kind of more a direct, straight kind of horror film experience. But really, I'm kind of more about, I'll continue to try and find work. Currently, I have like a part-time job teaching people how to throw axes now, so that's fun.
All right.
But yeah, for the most part, I just kind of see kind of where the roads take me. I don't like to force ideas too much, and I kind of like to write them down and then just like leave them, and then I can come back to them and stuff. So as long as I'm doing something creative and I've kind of got some ideas up my sleeve, yeah, we'll just see where things take me.
Yeah, we're really happy to support you in any way, man. It's when we see films and filmmakers of this ilk and this quality, I'm especially happy to support anyone really, and that's what I wanted to do with Hellbound going forward throughout the rest of this year, next year. Is we've tweaked our kind of not brand but our message to celebrating horror 365 days a year now.
Okay.
So just with small fun things like this Slayer Talk podcast that I'm doing, and a few other things like accepting more cosplay, showcasing people's special effects work within makeup, that kind of thing. So that's where we're at the moment with that. And that's why I've asked the best film nominees to send the little videos in. And I think we've received 4 so far. And we're speaking with Angel and Ryan Couchy, that directed Gollum this week as well. So I really appreciate you coming on board and so firstly submitting your film to both festivals. And I really hope to see something next year as well. Yeah, no, I'm pretty sure you will. We might have something. We'll have something else. We'll see what Laura has in her head. But it's really cool, man. And anything we can do to help support you in your filmmaking, I'm happy to do. And whenever you put that video together with the storyboards and that, we'll push that forward as well. Yeah, of course. I think the film's maybe public already. I've not been kind of pushing it too much because obviously in light of the US election has... Congratulations, by the way. Oh, thank you. It seemed to be the best course of action for things. Positive change, definitely. Yeah. I'd rather things moved in the right direction than stayed on the same course. Certainly while I'm in the US for the first time ever. So. Yeah. Absolutely, man. Yeah. Well, thank you very much, Ryan, and we'll keep in touch, man. Yeah, man. Thank you very much for all of your. One little note, by the way. I think you'll appreciate this because I'm part Scottish as well. I know that's where you're from, but so Alex Proyas. It was obviously it was really surreal with all our judges, but especially with Alex Proyas and Joe Alves, their involvement. But Alex sent me a script of what he was going to say because he put his thoughts down on paper. He thought, this is the best way for me to do this. So he sent me the script of his breakdown of each of the films. And it helped with the live event and how we structured it and how we went forward with it. And we wanted to make it really lean because some of the filmmakers were disappointed. And if you're watching, there's a little apology. We couldn't show all the films, but the event would have been over 6 hours if we'd have shown all films. So when Alex Proyas sent me his initial script for what he was going to record to camera, he said, American filmmaker, Jon Amey Henderson. I thought, no, I better correct that. He's a Scottish filmmaker living in the US. But that was the only change of his whole script that I said, you better correct that. I didn't want to make that mistake because that's the kind of mistake that I normally make. The biggest mistake I make normally is it's spelling something incorrectly. On a project you've taken 4 hours to export or something, I've definitely had that where I do hand-drawn titles and stuff and I'm like missing a letter out or something. Yeah, absolutely. And is that a Magneto helmet in the background? Yeah, Laura made that. Oh, that's awesome, man. She did. Well, obviously, she used to go to Comic-Cons and stuff like that. I think that might be Dragon Con that she did that. But she did. Cool. She did a Magneto cosplay thing. She's good friends with like a bunch of like cosplayers and stuff in the States and things. So that's awesome. Obviously, I noticed like you guys were doing the kind of cosplay competition thing as like part of the Hellbound Festival as well. Next year we've got we're going to make that its own little thing. I don't know how it's going to work yet. Obviously there's months to think about it, but the earlier I think about it the better. We've got a judge already for that. Good. He's an actor called Nicholas, get this right, Nicholas Vince, and he played the Chatterer in Hellraiser 1 and 2. Oh shit! So he's on the little teeth that's like that, his interview is coming out soon as well about making Hellraiser and working with Clive Barker, and he's going to be a judge for the cosplay thing next year, so that should go really well. But thanks, Ryan. I really appreciate it, man. It's great speaking to you, mate. Yeah, of course. All right, see you soon, mate. See you now. Okay, cheers, man. Thank you.